Hey, beautiful souls. We are going to continue from the book. This is Sage, if you don't know what it is. It helps clean your space. I'm going to claim for the collective. For the ones listening, God bless you. I pray for protection, hope, and awareness to open your eyes, give you hope, to give you faith in all times, good and bad. Y'all, we're going to get through this. I promise. Alright, so let me move this over. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your vape. Let's get through this journey together. Let's get through these challenging times together. That's a little bit hot. Alright, so we are going to go into chapter 11. It's called Kitty. Alright. Alright, God is good. Chapter 11, Kitty. I met a girl in high school. I called her Kitty. She loved cats. I think she still does, actually. I told her about everything that was going on in my life, and she went on and told her mother. I'm sure they felt sorry for me, because soon after, her mom decided to get involved and asked my father to adopt me. He was more than willing to give me up for adoption. I knew it hurt him because all I can remember was him walking towards the podium in court. He signed his rights over, and with his head down, he exited the courtroom. And not once did he look at me. I know he felt as if he let me down, and I know he was sorry. He tried as best as he knew how to. I was hurt, but strangely and quickly I brushed it under the rug, just like I had done with everything else that hurt me in my life growing up. I was beginning to become immune to this type of hurt. This is where I see God stepped in, and I'm gonna say this. My heart started to harden, and I see now that it was for my protection, because God knew that I'd go through a lot more trials. So yeah, I'm grateful, Kitty's life was the American... I'm gonna get comfortable. It was the American life I thought I wanted. Her mom was always at work, and we were left really to do whatever we wanted. I considered Kitty a hippie, and I loved dragging along with her because she hung out with all the hot hippies and the skateboard dudes. Kitty and her family would go to Knoxville, Tennessee oftentimes and leave me behind. I took advantage of it. I remember going out with a couple so-called friends, and back then I thought I was the life of the party. I literally brought home the entire bar. I mean, there were cars parked all up and down her street into her driveway. People brought their own alcohol. The next morning, I found people passed out outside, on top of the washer and dryer in the living room, in Kitty's parents' bed. Kitty, if you're reading this right now, I am truly sorry. To this day, I still don't get how Kitty's parents never found out. Not a trace of the party was in sight. It's crazy how that happened. When I was younger, I had older friends that literally would beg me to go out with them, and they would buy me outfits and get my hair and my nails done. And these would be females, And then they would leave their debit cards open at the bar so that I can get whatever I wanted. Yeah. I was the crazy life of the party. But I'm good now. I've had enough of it. I had a boyfriend at the time that I would call Cracker. He was he was a white, skinny guy. Just recently he tried to follow me on Facebook, and I asked him to unfollow me. Remember, I was 16 years old then. The two of us lied to Kitty's mom and told her Cracker was 19, when really I think he was in his late 20s. I did a lot of things that I'm not proud of during the few years I lived with these great people. I remember okay. Cracker and I stealing Kitty's mom and stepdad's CDs and DVDs and pawning them at Hastings because Cracker and I wanted to get some cocaine. Cracker was older and took advantage of the fact that I had to be home at a certain time every night, so he was constantly cheating. At this point, I still had no idea what love really was. I know there were times we weren't together and I would go and have intimacy with other people, and the next day we would argue because I supposedly cheated on him. When really, I had blacked out and I was taken advantage of. This happened on one occasion, and I can remember us getting in this huge fight, and he had no compassion or didn't want to understand what had really happened. Guys, there are going to be relationships in your life that they're not going to work out. You cannot go against the grain. If it is not meant to be, it is not meant to be. Yeah, when you're younger, you're going to be so heartbroken and you're going to think the world is it's ending, it's over. But you're going to look back 20 years later like I am right now, and you're going to be like, wow, I get it. I understand why it didn't work out. It wasn't meant to be. You know, these were lessons in our lives, you know, that we had to learn. And sometimes it took us more than one lesson. In my case, yeah, a few. I own it. He acted like he cared, but he was the type of guy to run and laugh about it to all his homies. I ended up trying shroom. Okay, well, we'll talk about this. There were a lot of guys growing up that were just not very healed. They were not good. Guys that I ran into that would actually go and tell people all of my mishaps, and if I was raped, they would laugh about it, or if just all the bad things that happened to me, they went and ran their mouths to everyone that was not important, and then the gossip started and it carried on through people I didn't even know, you know? It sucks, but this was part of the process. Alright. I remember, I ended up trying shrooms for the first time at Kitty's house in her front yard. I remember connecting my friend's freckles on his face. Like, he had so many freckles, I would connect them. Personally, it looked like he was wearing a full body armor. And Kitty, it was hilarious. I would pss, pss, as if I were trying to get a cat to come my way. She looked like a cat. So I kept going, pss, pss. I was tripping. I really thought she was a cat. It was an experience. I still wouldn't change it for the world, you know? I wouldn't recommend anyone to trip on shrooms. I'm just sharing with y'all how it affected me so that maybe you won't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. The weirdness, it's just not worth it. It's stupid now that I think about it. While living with Kitty's family, one of my very first jobs was at Kroger. While employed at Kroger, I met this chick from Columbus, Georgia. Her name was Shanna. Shanna always bragged about how much more money she would make when she lived in Columbus, Georgia. I should have asked her what the hell she was doing in Alabama if it was so good in Georgia. Shanna ended up convincing me into moving with her to Georgia. One of the worst mistakes of my life. Kitty's mom let me take all my bedroom furniture and help me move everything to Columbus, Georgia. I think about that time, she was sick of my shit. That was becoming a trend in my life at this time. I was one tough act to follow, and I sure as hell was a hard pill to swallow. Alright, we're going into chapter 12, Georgia. You know, these are phases and stages in my life. I had to go through everything to get to where I'm at right now. They were all lessons, you know? Good and bad, good, sad, crazy, wild lessons. But if you're if you've gone through the same type of stuff that I have gone through, which I'm sure you have gone through, some of the things that I have gone through are similar, if you're here right now watching my videos, you made it out alive, guys. God had his hand on you the whole time. You're just really hard-headed. Like me. Alright, so chapter 12, Georgia. I should put some ice cubes in this. Alright, let's carry on. Well, I was finally in Georgia. I had no job, no car, and Shanna was at work, so getting a cigarette was almost impossible. Until one day, I was sitting outside on our porch and I saw this sexy blonde beach bum looking dude washing his white Acura car. Later on, I found out it was his mother's. I stroll over to bum a cigarette. If you don't know what bumming is, it's asking for a cigarette. You're kind of like a bum. You don't have money to get cigarettes, so you're bumming a cigarette. You get it? Alright. I stroll over to bum a smoke, and he asked me what kind of smoke. I told him menthol, and he said he had a friend that smokes menthol and was coming over. He asked me to sit for a few minutes, and he should be pulling up. We're going to call his buddy DJ. When he finally pulled up, I was invited inside Beach Bum's house, and on the dresser I saw piles of crystal-looking substances. Beach Bum asked me if I had ever smoked, and I lied because all I wanted to do was fit in. It seems like a reoccurring issue. This was the worst lie of my life thus far. Guys, there are many lies in my life that I told people just to fit in. And if I would have just been honest and truthful, I wouldn't have put myself in these, predicaments, these situations. And it took me 37 years to learn that. So just be honest. You do not. If you don't fit in, you just don't fit in. It's not in alignment with your better self, with your path and your purpose, okay? And I joke around about it now. It was the worst cigarette I had ever bummed in my life. At first, Beach Bum wouldn't let me smoke dope. He said that's how people got addicted to it. And he had been smoking the shit for 13 years prior to meeting me. It was crystal meth, y'all. I was introduced to crystal meth. I wasted a lot of years on it. But it's okay, because I'm awake now. You'll wake up. But smoking the shit for my entire life. Okay. Beach Bum had the house, friends, car, and family that I wanted my entire life. That's what I pictured a proper boyfriend relationship should consist of. I still lived in my apartment across the street, but it got to the point where he didn't want me to leave there, so I ended up moving in with him. That Disneyland phase ended quickly. Oh my god. The shit we put each other through, I thought it was love. I was young. I was never loved right. So, yeah. Let's continue. I remember him leaving me lines on the dresser each morning when he left for work. I guess that's what kept me there. I was new to methamphetamine. I remember freaking out whenever he left. I thought him and his friends were outside talking shit about me when he wasn't even home. It was paranoia, y'all. It comes with drugs. Especially uppers. I thought he was screwing, we're going to call her the dope dealer. She was a badass, I thought. Everyone loved her. Not until many years later did I understand why dope dealers are worshipped by dope heads. I used to be one. I should know. Not dope dealer, but I was a dope head. And it took me a while to realize that the accountability that I needed to take as being an addict, I didn't want to own it. Nobody ever does. Because it's not. I'm just glad that lifestyle is over. I literally saw pink monkeys in the trees while I was sweeping our front porch at 3 a.m. Who sweeps their front porch at 3 a.m.? I did. And many other addicts do too. God bless. I had to learn the high and what the effects on me were the hard way because I thought I wanted to be a part of Beach Bum's lifestyle at the time. I just wanted to fit in. We all see where that got me. It only gets crazier. I should have never lied and said I knew what the crystal-looking substance was on Beach Bum's dresser. It was definitely one of the worst lies I ever told that affected a major part of my life. But God knew what he was doing. It took me many years later to realize why Beach Bum wasn't ever around. Besides the fact that I was crazy as hell on that shit, and he didn't want to be around me. Crystal meth is a drug I learned he chased all the time because 10 years later I did the same thing. I had to learn for myself. So I was introduced to crystal meth when I started dating Beach Bum. But then we had a drought and I turned to alcohol and became an alcoholic for many years. And then I came across crystal meth again in Alabama. And I really had to learn about it. Yeah, so crystal meth, I had to learn for myself. If Beach Bum wasn't figuring out ways to get money to buy more dope or selling it off somewhere, smoking with other people, that's what that lifestyle does. It alienates you from society, from anything healthy, and your family especially. It turns you into a soulless person. You forget how to care for anyone. You easily lose yourself. You really do. Beach Bum put a stop to me going anywhere with him because I embarrassed him so many times in front of his friends and threatened to call the cops on everyone. Hell, I was young. I didn't know how to control my high. I didn't think anything was wrong with me. I thought it was everyone else's fault. Beach Bum got out there a few times himself. I remember him getting so paranoid, thinking the cops were after him, and he made me take his truck and drive it back home to Alabama. He thought I was going to listen and go to Alabama, but I didn't. He wrote a letter saying that the truck he was going to make me leave belonged to him. And if anything was found, such as paraphernalia or drugs, it was also his. He was so paranoid he thought the cops were going to run up in our home any minute. He wanted to protect me. I left, but I didn't go back to Alabama. He made it clear in the letter he made me take that whatever trouble he was in, I had nothing to do with it. I ended up getting drunk, and somehow or another I ended up at some guy's house and got up the next morning, not sure about what had happened, but made it back to Beach Bum's house. Beach Bum was still hiding out with his dope dealer. He ended up coming home later the next morning, immediately got in my face and shoved me to the ground and dragged me by my legs to the side of the road. He told me I was trash and called me every name in the book. Alcohol was never a friend of mine. This was my second run-in with GHB. I was drugged, and every day living in that neighborhood was hell. Yeah, so I got drunk. Well, I had Beach Bum's truck, and he thought I was in Alabama, but I got drugged and drunk with neighbors down the road. And yeah, he found out about it because everyone was talking about it, because that's how people like that are. You know, they brag about awful things, you know? So every day in that neighborhood, I always looked over my shoulders. And for the longest time, I couldn't remember what happened. And little by little, my memories were coming back, and I was like, holy shit, you know? And it just became so hard to live in that neighborhood, you know? And then it says, I guess I was so drunk I couldn't recognize them. It got to the point where people would be saying hi to me and like snickering or just like winking at me at like gas stations, and I didn't even recognize them, but they were a couple of people that took part in this. Them, anytime I saw them on the street and they approached me bringing up this incident, which they would, just to get an arousal out of me, I looked dumbfounded and I was embarrassed. Beach Bum later realized I was raped and wanted to kill everyone on that block. The dope dealer spread the rumor that Beach Bum and I had HIV to this day, and I still question why she and I had beef. Man, dope will make you a monster. Like, her and I had beef. I know that I was jealous, or no, actually it's not even about being jealous. I was so addicted to the dope. Whenever Beach Bum left, I thought he was out there smoking dope without me. I thought he was out there getting high without me, and all I wanted to do is get high. You know, that's what happens in an addict's life. You think that you're in love, when in all actuality you're in love with drugs. The addiction, it consumes you, you know. Being raped started to become normal to me. It didn't even faze me like it would most females. I never got emotional about it. So, guys, what does that sound like to you? I blocked it out, you know? I just said, fuck it. Nobody's gonna listen. Nobody cares. What's it gonna do for me if I sit here and talk about it or play victim? It's not gonna do anything for me. And later on in life, I realized that these were lessons. I had to get my act together so that I would not have to repeat these shitty karmic lessons, you know? So there wasn't much I got emotional about. In Columbus, Georgia, I had no emotion. I was dead on the inside. Yeah, before too long, I got used to Beach Bum leaving me alone at the house for 3 days at a time, with no power or dope and absolutely no food. I ended up meeting the neighbors that moved into my old place. The place right across the street from Beach Bum's house. The house Shanna and I rented right when we moved from Alabama. The same house I lived in when I met Beach Bum. Okay, this gets interesting, but it's real stuff that happens, you know? Alright, it's chapter 13, and it's called His Boys. On occasion, Beach Bum would leave me at home without food, dope, hope, power. I didn't mean to put hope there. Power, the water didn't work. And in the beginning of our relationship, our home on 18th, the street was set up like a college student's duplex. He was attending school at the time, but it didn't last. His father had a bunch of rental properties and gave him this house. Beach Bum would do the maintenance of all the other properties, and his father would let him work his rent off. He was a mama's boy, and his father adored the hell out of him. He was a lovable guy, but when meth was in the picture, he wasn't the Beach Bum his parents knew, or anyone knew for that matter. We managed to wreck his house. I would get so geeked up and paint every room of the house a different color every day. Not every day, but maybe every other day. I wouldn't paint it the right way. I would put layer on layer. Beach Bum was a painter by occupation. When he left me at the house for days at a time, I had to resort to finding my own food and reaching out to neighbors for help. In the old apartment that Shanna and I moved into right across the street, when we moved out, a guy moved in. We will call him Peter P. He worked in a cafeteria and would bring home food every night. I made sure I walked my strung-out ass across the street to eat. I would say Peter P. felt sorry for me. There were things about this man I didn't know, and you will learn soon. Things that happened in this home I thought only happened in the movies. Thanks, Peter P., for feeding me for all the years that you did and showing me things that really happen in the real world. You taught me a lot. By no means am I trying to put your business out there. I just hope people learn from our experiences. Looking back and realizing if I were at my best in my life, I would never have associated with anyone. But God knew I was extremely hard-headed and made my life unmanageable until I straightened the hell up. I learned quickly that Peter P. was gay, and I would never have known if it weren't for the times I would come over and try to hang out. He wouldn't let me hang out for too long. He was quick to run me off. If it weren't for these select young white boys that would always come around when they were broke and didn't have money, Peter P. would get them high or drunk, and he would take advantage of them. These guys were straight as a board until they were under the influence. When it would just be Peter P. and me, and he would be tipsy, and I would be sipping on a beer. I would be chugging beers. I'm not even kidding. We would get to talking, and he would start telling me all the fucked up stories between them. It got to the point that he would get jealous of me because he thought I wanted his boys. All I wanted to do was eat his food. Honestly, I was just a hungry person, you know? Later on in life, I did end up hooking up with 2 of his boys. I was so intoxicated, and it didn't make any sense. I didn't care about myself. You could tell when Peter P. would get jealous when I was around these guys. This man would snap, and it would come out of nowhere just because the guys gave me all of their attention. I honestly, at that time, could care less about any man. I just wanted to be high or drunk. Alright, guys, so We're going into chapter 14. Prostitution. Alright, I'm sharing this with y'all because for me to heal, I had to take accountability of everything that I've done in my life. To right my wrongs and to clear my karma slate off. You can too. But you have to face all of your deepest, darkest secrets. And in the end, all those tears that you forgot that you could cry, all those feelings that you blocked, you will feel them. And it will get tough once you take accountability. But you'll be able to share your story without all the tears and all the crying. You will be able to share your story proud that you made it out and you woke up. Alright, so this is chapter 14, Prostitution. Whenever Peter Piper would run me off, I would run to another so-called friend who acted like he had my best interest, but in all actuality, all he wanted to do was fuck me. Yeah, I don't even like using these words so much, but on this journey, the way that I wrote is my truth. I had to write what I was feeling, you know, and when you begin your journey, you're coming off of drugs, you tend to write all these cuss words and things that further along as you heal, you transform into a completely different, decent human being with better morals, boundaries, a higher just awareness of who you are, you know? And you don't talk like this anymore. So, it's a really good feeling, you know? It's a cool as all get out when you feel bad for saying a cuss word. It feels good. Alright. Who acted like... Okay. We're going to call him Whitey. He was the blackest in color black man you would ever see, but he acted the whitest. And yes, I'm stereotyping. I'm really just trying to get you to see the picture. He got me into prostitution, and I had easy money. He lived in Columbus, Georgia, rode his cab all through the military base, and had access to all the horny young guys in the military, and multi-million-dollar married men who would have lost everything if their family found out. And these young guys didn't know how to talk to a woman, and these guys would... Okay. These guys would quickly pay for a prostitute. I met Whitey while... Excuse me. Whitey while I worked at a bar downtown Columbus, Georgia. In the beginning, I was freaked out about it, but when you're under the influence of many different drugs and alcohol and you've been up delirious for days, you tend to lose the little dignity you have and just don't give a fuck. Whitey would drop me off at the hotel with another prostitute, and we would literally go in a room, lay down for less than 10 minutes, and the guys would come. I can't believe I'm even saying that. You could tell they weren't getting any, and we would make over $1,000 a night. They also bought all the drugs and alcohol we wanted. I met one man who wasn't military. He owned his own construction business, had a beautiful family at home, but enjoyed cocaine, probably more than he enjoyed his family. God bless his heart. He couldn't get hard for the life of him when he did cocaine. I couldn't understand why this idiot would do this shit to himself until now. I look back and see I was also an idiot. You know, we do so much in our lives that we, at the time, you know, when we were unhealed, we are not aware that we are being idiots. You know, but then now that once you start healing, you can look back and you could be like, yeah, I see the lesson in that. It would take me and 3 other girls to entertain this dummy, and he would literally be so embarrassed that he couldn't get hard. He would be throwing $100 bills at us every time we looked at him. I entertained him once, hung out in the room for 20 minutes, and got $800 and took off. I never stuck around to risk the chance of police showing up. I was always careful. This guy bought a few of the girls' cars and set them up in their own houses. I was never bold enough to stick around for any of that. The inevitable happened a few years later. This man ended up losing his business, going bankrupt. He lost everything. Every time I got Whitey to scoop me up, it would be because I was starving and knew he would feed me. And it made time pass, which was better than sitting at home waiting for Beach Bum to get home. I never knew when that would be, so I never gave Whitey the time to get me for too long and have a chance to have sex with me. I always rushed to get back to Beach Bum's house so that I could get high, hopefully. Whitey always told me that he would take care of me if I would just leave Beach Bum, but little did I know by this time crystal meth controlled me and I was codependent on what I thought was love with Beach Bum, but in fact it was love with dope. Beach Bum and I would get into some of the ugliest arguments. I would call his mom and tell her everything that we were doing. I didn't care who I hurt in the process. He was a mama's boy, so everything I would say to her went in one ear and out the other. His mother would just blame everything on me and tell Beach Bum to get rid of me. He wouldn't have these problems anymore if he got rid of me. I honestly don't think I would have stuck around as long as I did if it weren't for the dope. Well, I know I wouldn't have. But by this time, Beach Bum managed to make me feel like no one else would ever want me. Beach Bum and I would get so high, and he would take things apart and never put them back together. This man had so many projects going on at one time. It started to look like a hoarder's house. He would take motors out of anything with a motor and make sex toys to use with me as he played a porno for us to watch. Our relationship got so bad, we weren't civil to each other except for when he wanted to have sex. He was nice to me for those few minutes, and I ate it up. He made sure he had dope as we were fucking and made me feel like a dope whore. However, I later realized I had become one because I only thought about being dope or getting dope and how I would get high. It was like my soul left my body and nothing else mattered. It was an empty feeling. It sucks, man. Being an addict sucks. I remember one day he sent me to pick up Chinese food and he wanted Mongolian beef. The sign on the buffet read Mongolian beef. When I got home, he took the carry-out box full of food and smashed it in my face. Then he started beating. This is true. He started beating me because he claimed for it not to be Mongolian beef. It was Mongolian beef. But oh well. Now that I'm older and have experienced it full force, I know he didn't mean to be the way that dope made him. And he may not know it, but I forgive him. I used to be Beach Bum's lookout when we would go and steal shit. When the cops were pulling up, I would give him a heads up. We were back behind Kmart one night, and he broke into their shed. We ended up stealing 13 brand new lawnmowers and selling them for dope. I ran into a nice hotel with him and stole a flat screen TV and sold that for dope too. I am not proud of any of these. It's a lesson learned, and since I've done it, I hope you don't. The narrator insert. I'm sharing these stories with you because I want you not to have to go through the things I went through. Not many of us are as blessed as I am. I made it out alive. Guys, I want you to too. If you can read my book and learn from it, you can make it through anything. Absolutely anything, okay? Alright, I'm going to cut this video short, take a bathroom break, and then we're going to get back to the book. And we're going into chapter 15 called Snitch. Y'all are going to want to stay tuned for this one. God bless you. Love you.